1,500 Hezbollah fighters taken out of...
A combatant is in combat. Is that okay? All of Israel are IDF fighters, so everyone's a target then, except the miners.
Again, there's like a whole IHL thing here about like continuous combat function being completely distinct from reservists, because states are a bit less mental, typically, and states don't really have their military and their civilians in these kind of like fluid, you do one thing by day, one thing in the evening kind of roles. They don't do that. I don't even know if he wants to come on stream. I think he just wants to fucking yap.
So I don't agree with your judgment that because Hezbollah, I guess, is not the sole head of state, that they should lose those protections when you're talking about off-duty fighters walking in grocery markets, in their homes, playing with their children.
Right, that has nothing to do with what I just
car,
said.
maybe driving somebody.
Just to be clear, that has nothing to do with what I said.
Their family, maybe driving their kids to school.
Yeah, just to be clear, this has nothing to do with what I said. What do you know the difference between, not because they're being a non-state actor.
No, it has everything to do. I'm saying they weren't in
combat function.
They weren't in combat. Yeah, you're saying because they're terrorists, they're not official state soldiers.
It doesn't matter about them not being official state.
It
doesn't matter about them not being official state.
Combat.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not because they're non-state they're continuously in combat. That would be ridiculous.
Then why do you think they're... Oh, because they have the pagers they're continuously in combat?
What's the what was the purpose of the pagers?
How's that any different than having a cell phone?
What do you think?
It doesn't matter what piece of technology you have on you to be contacted with.
Do you think they were using...
there's nothing in the international law about pagers.
Wait, do you think they were using the pagers
I missed the whole segment about pagers in international law.
I could see why you're trying to like bulldoze, okay? But like, do you understand that like why
I'm not
the pagers were different
I'm saying
from phone
I
calls?
don't agree with you. So your whole premise is they have pagers instead of cell phones, so they're continuously combatants.
What was the purpose of what was the purpose of them having pagers?
What's the purpose of having a phone?
To contact friends, family, professional employers. What was the purpose of the pager?
Can you not be contacted by a military to come perform duties as a combatant with a phone?
Yeah, if you're combat ready, if you're ready to be activated at any given moment.
Your interpretation of international law is nonsense. It's amateur.
It's not nonsense. It's backed up by legal scholars. I can show you the articles if you want.
There's nothing in international law about a distinction between a pager and a cell phone. That's comical.
Well, no, that's not the distinction. The distinction is between whether or not these people were combat ready, were battle ready.
No, combat ready means you're at a military base.
No, no, it doesn't. Where do you see that? Where do you find that in international law?
Combat ready? Okay, so
show me right now.
I'm in bed,
or did you just make
sleeping with my family, and I'm combat ready.
Soldiers in a barrack. Soldiers in like a soldiers
That's your interpretation of international law.
Soldiers who go to sleep in Gaza.
I'm sleeping next to my wife. I know you look at like West Point think tank articles and you just copy the shit you read from there.
Well, actually, most of my position here came from reading the IHL.
They're state-sponsored institutions that write these articles
so you're just
specifically to justify war crimes. Their whole job is to come up with a case to justify war crimes.
Well, why did they say that there was particular issues with some legal arguments about the pagers? Why did they say that? Where did you learn that? Where did you learn that their job is to justify war crimes? Do you think the Lieber Institute hasn't called out war crimes?
No, when did I say they haven't called out war crimes?
Well, if it's their job to justify war crimes.
Their job is to justify war crimes, yes. They come
According
up with
to who?
Explanations for why war crimes are actually not crimes.
That's just an opinion. Actually, most of my opinion on this is formed by reading about IHL.
What is your next question?
Tell me why I'm wrong about continuous combat function. Depends on what they're using the cell phone for, doesn't it? If they're using the cell phone to say that they're at any moment you can get phone call from Hezbollah, from one of the forces, and then you just go and fire rockets. Yes, that would make you a combatant if you're doing it with a phone.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I reject your idea, and it does go back to them not
if you're
being
ready
the head
to
of
just
state.
like, if you're like 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away or an hour away from getting a call or a text,
it does go back,
and you go and fire a rocket, does that mean you're a
reservist
civilian?
in Tel Aviv?
No, it doesn't. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
Off-duty
Thank you so much.
officers.
Tell me what happens when a reservist gets called up for duty by a state.
What happens can vary depending on the scenario. What the hell are you talking about?
It's not a fucking answer. What typically happens when they get called up?
You want me to lay out? You get called. You go to a military base. You get equipped. You get like what the hell do you want?
Does a reservist get? Does a reservist get a
detail? Do you expect me to go through?
Does a reservist get a call up and then they're just ready to fight like within a few hours?
The hell is this question? Make your point if you want to. Okay, so let me get
Oh,
this
you're
straight.
actually going to give me the opportunity to
You think that
explain,
you've
but
assumed
everything
that
I explained,
wait.
you're just going to call
You've
it an
assumed
amateur
that
interpretation.
Hezbollah fighters are combat ready within 10 minutes.
It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. I said it can be 10 minutes or a few hours,
No, you
but
said
yes,
10
that was
minutes.
what happened, yeah. No, I didn't just say 10
said
minutes.
10 minutes.
I said 10 minutes or?
Do you see what you're
Are
trying
you
to? You're
clip chipping me in
desperately
real
trying to
time?
find a flaw.
Are you actually clip chipping me
You're
in real
operating-
time?
Wait, you're
How many times did I say?
You're
Did I
operating
really?
on nothing.
What's the only time scale I
Listen,
gave?
wait,
10 minutes.
You're operating on nothing. You have
Yeah.
no objective facts.
You
no
said they targeted
reasonable
civilians when
interpretation
Hezbollah called them
of
fighters.
international law. You came up with this nonsense 10 minutes.
I didn't come up with
and then
it.
you said
I said it could be 10 minutes. It could also be what else? A few hours? Did you ignore me? Or are you actually just trying to clip chip me like you do in your fucking Twitter accounts in real time?
No, I'm not.
You
I'm
fucking
saying,
retard. Why
okay,
would you
a
even
few
try
hours,
to do
I
that?
don't care.
Holy shit.
I don't care. 10
That's the
minutes, a few
difference between a
hours.
reservist and continuous combat function.
These are things you're pulling out of
hang
your
on.
ass, LonerBox. Okay.
So if I found
the
it at
Hezbollah
IHL, you'd
briefing,
change your mind. Let me find
so
it.
wait. The Hezbollah briefing said, "Here's our brave fighters who died. They were all ready to fight within a few hours." Not made up by LonerBox. I don't give a shit what your assumptions are about how quick they are to fight. We're not in the realm of international law. Do you understand that? We're so far outside because your amateur interpretation is trying to bring us to a place that has nothing to do with international law.
Continuous combat function requires lasting integration into an organized armed group acting as the armed forces of a non-state party to an armed conflict. Sounds like Hezbollah to me. Thus, individuals whose continuous function
You said
involves...
it wasn't about non-state. That was the first thing I brought up was state versus non-state. And I said it rejected it. Yeah, you're saying because they're terrorists, they're not official state soldiers.
It doesn't matter about them not being official state.
They're
It doesn't matter about them not being official
in
state.
combat.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not because they're non-state they're continuously in combat. That would be ridiculous.
Then why do you think they're... And by the way, the excerpt you're reading is about an interpretation of the law. It's not the law itself.
It's whose interpretation is it?
The Red Cross.
Okay. So is the Red Cross's job to justify war crimes?
I didn't say it was their job, but
okay, so I'm just going to keep reading so we can listen to the people who know what the fuck they're talking about. Thus, individuals whose continuous function involves the preparation,
you
execution,
didn't know what you were talking about.
You
said it wasn't about state. The first thing I brought up was state. You made it about 10 minutes and pagers.
Hostilities are assuming continuous combat function. An individual recruited, trained, and equipped by such a group to continuously and directly participate in hostilities on its behalf can be considered to assume a continuous combat function even before he or she first carries out a hostile act. This case must be distinguished from persons comparable to reservists who, after a period of basic training or active membership, leave the armed group and reintegrate into civilian life. Such reservists are civilians until and for such time as they are called back to active duty. Do you have an IHL opinion that contradicts that I can see, please?
Yeah. The first thing I said, which you immediately moved past because you said it's not about state versus non-state, and that's literally what this is about: state versus non-state. So you moved past the argument. You went to amateur bullshit international law. You moved me past what I was going to say, which has to do with actual international law.
So I'm just going to ask you the same question again because you're not answering it. Do you have an alternative opinion in IHL that contradicts what I just said?
Yeah, Hezbollah. Yeah, no. What I said is I don't agree with your interpretation that
it's not my interpretation. It's the Red Cross.
As non-state actors and therefore lose their protection when they're in a civilian setting.
They don't lose it because there's non-state actors by default. Hezbollah is a part of the
government of Lebanon. Hezbollah is a part of the government of Lebanon. Okay?
Is there military? Wait. Fuck you, man. Is the military non-state or is it state?
Just because
is the Hezbollah military state or non-state?
Just because they're not the exclusive government.
Hezbollah military state or
part
non-state?
Of the government.
Yeah, and did they vote in the existence of their military?
They are a part of the government. I reject the idea.
Did they vote in their military?
Because they are not the exclusive government. That therefore protections which are meant to stop attacks on civilians, reckless attacks in civilian areas, that those protections should no longer apply. I reject that.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Is the Hezbollah military sanctioned by the state then? So they use their what did they do? Did they use their parliament members to vote on the existence of Hezbollah having a military? Is that how that happened? Or are you just saying they have a few seats in parliament, therefore them having a non-state military is somehow not a non-state military? What the fuck?
Okay.
What a fucking brain-dead objection.
I'm saying they're part of the state. No, I'm saying they're part of the state, and I consider the military to have the same protections. And again, what you're reading is an interpretation. It's not the actual law. So this could be debated in a court if you'd like.
Well, show me your alternative. Show me the alternative opinion that contradicts this.
And try to debate whether or not Hezbollah should qualify for protections.
Okay, so we've evolved now. We've evolved
civilian
from
protections that other off-duty officers have.
So we've evolved from, the idiot's interpretation, and now we're one step up to the ICRC's interpretation, which you disagree with because.
No, LonerBox, are you going to try and rewrite history? The first thing I said was I reject the non-state distinction. You said it has nothing to do with non-state.
It's not about
now,
non-state.
Somebody wants to go back.
Continuous combat.
No,
wait, why do you think they mentioned non-state in this paragraph?
If somebody wants to go back, if somebody wants to go back and listen to the first thing you said, you were so confident in yourself.
Why?
I knew what the argument would be. You didn't. I knew the argument would be about state versus non-state.
Why do you think it says non-state in that? Why do you think it
You immediately moved past that.
Why do you think it says
tried to make it about
article?
the fact that they have pagers, and you assume that they can be ready to fight in 10 minutes. I guess
Did I just say 10 minutes? Why are you doing? Why you're literally doing the real life clip thing again? I don't understand.
No.
Why do you think they say non-state?
Come on.
Okay, so can I explain myself for like 30 seconds? The reason I said non-state is not the most relevant factor here, or the relevant factor, is because the reason continuous combat function is applied differently from reservists is because non-state actors use their militants in a different way from states. It's not because they're non-state. It's just that this happens to be a behavior, a way of doing military operations that is basically just done by non-state actors. Do you understand what I just said?
The argument you're making is that So the argument that you're making is that it has nothing to do with them being state versus non-state. So you've abandoned that.
What did I just say?
A second ago,
What did I just say? Sorry, wait, what did I just say?
They should be considered state or non-state.
What did I just say?
That's what I'm asking you. So you
no, so you've completely forgotten. If you've forgotten what I said, I can say it again.
No. This is what my question to you, okay? And you can answer it clearly. Are you dropping the argument that it matters whether they're considered state or non-state? Are you dropping that argument?
Yeah, if a state behaved in this way, they'd still have continuous combat function. Yeah, it's just that states don't do this. That's why that paragraph mentions non-state actors. Have a military force where soldiers are literally battle ready and even working regular jobs, like in the same day.
What do you mean battle ready?
As in they're ready, like at any minute, or to go out and to take part in an operation.
They're just psychologically ready. They're psychologically ready.
As in they are ready in terms of they can get a call and they would go up and be battle ready like within a day. There's like a revolving door. That's what the argument is.
Okay,
reservists don't do this.
You're not saying anything. What makes them particularly battle ready compared to like an off-duty soldier in Israel?
As an off-duty soldier versus a reservist? So I don't know about not off-duty soldiers. So you can tell me how they operate.
Versus a Hezbollah fighter.
Yeah, so
versus a Hezbollah
fighter.
Okay,
I'm going to trust you then because you didn't know anything about reservists to compare it to this. But what is an off-duty soldier? How does that work?
No, I'm asking you. You're saying they're bad. You're saying they're.
I don't know how off-duty soldiers exactly. I don't know the process of off-duty soldiers. So you can tell me. What is an off-duty soldier? How does that work?
No, you're the one making the claim. You're saying they're uniquely battle ready. It's your claim.
Compared to reservists. I don't know about off-duty soldiers.
Don't push the responsibility onto me. You're the one who has this
You brought up off-duty soldiers. Why are you being so fucking dense,
They're uniquely battle ready. Stop trying to stall.
Compared to reservists.
Stop trying to stall. You weren't able to answer the question. We could move on to another subject, or you can give me an answer. Why are they so uniquely battle ready?
Compared to reservists? That's what I was talking about. Yeah? Because reservists have a fine line. You are either integrated into civilian life and not battle ready, or you get the call up, then you go and you leave your civilian job temporarily, and you go and get training, and you go and get ready to go to the front lines or to military operations.
So
that's the difference.
So those fighters didn't. So nobody targeted in the pager attack had a civilian job.
What did I just say?
You just said you're working your civilian job and you're waiting to get the call. Okay, so you're telling me nobody targeted in the pager attack had a civilian job.
Okay, I don't think you understand the process.
No, you don't understand your own points. You just told me reservists. The fine line is they're working a civilian job and then they get the call. So now I'm asking you. You made these claims. Now you got to back them up. Nobody targeted in the pager attack had a civilian job.
Okay, so when a reservist I didn't say about not having a civilian job. You're literally, when you say that Hezbollah people who got hit with those pagers had a civilian job, you're making my point, right? The fact that they multitask, that they are at the same time battle ready and also
I'm
have
not
a
making
civilian
your
job.
point. You said they're battle ready. You
Yes,
still
you're
haven't
making my
explained why
point.
they're uniquely battle ready. And
Because as soon as they get the
off-duty
pager
soldiers
call,
and reservists in Israel aren't battle ready.
because reservists
Battle ready.
have to take
By
time.
the way, combat ready. Actually, if you gave a crap, means you're on a military base. But fine, keep going.
That's not what battle ready necessarily means, but okay.
Okay, fine. So why are they battle ready?
What do you think I'm going to say? Because I've
At
answered this
any
question
point you
50
can
times
move
right
on
now.
to another question because you've been totally unable to defend your stance.
Yeah, just do that thing where you just like have no fucking idea what you're talking about, and you just keep on reminding everyone how
You're the
winning.
one
Yeah,
making
good.
you're the one making
Hey
extraordinary
guys, just
claims.
so you guys know, Disinformation Tracker is getting absolutely fucking rolled right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, if you say
That is
it,
what
it's
you're
gotta
doing.
be true.
I mean, that's exactly
What
what
do
you're
you
doing,
mean?
but okay.
How many times do I have to ask you the same question? We can go through this.
I answered it a
Somebody
million
can
times.
scrub through this conversation. How many times do I have to ask you why are they uniquely battle ready?
Because when reservists get called up for duty, there is a process where they leave their civilian job and then they go back in, they get briefed, they get armed, they get told what their job is, and this is sometimes a process of like several days.
So
There's a very clear separation.
So those fighters
I'm not
could
done
not-
answering my
so
question, you fucking
you have it
moron.
on good authority. You have it on good authority that those fighters did not have a process to go to get armed and briefed. You have this information.
Can you let me finish my sentence, please? My
Okay, fine.
statement?
Keep going.
Okay. So I'm just going to start again, okay? I'm going to start again from the start
Start
every
again.
time you do this, okay? Reservists get called
ahead.
up, and then when they get called up, then they know that there's going to be a certain time window even before they even have to go to attend, because they have to have time to leave their job. They might be in a different country at the time, okay? They are completely integrated into civilian life, and when they leave civilian life, they will turn up then to their barracks, they will get told what their orders are, then they'll get preparation, and sometimes this process can take days, it can take weeks. With someone who is a non-state actor with a continuous combat function, the same process happens like within 24 hours. That's the difference.
Okay, where's
And they
your
can go back and
proof
forth.
that? Where's your proof that your comparison of this is the average amount of time it takes for a reservist to get called up, and this is the average amount of time it takes for a Hezbollah fighter to get called up?
The fact that Hezbollah fighters literally do civilian jobs and then also go and fire fucking rockets, like.
Where's
what?
your proof about the window of time it takes to get processed and briefed and be ready to enter combat?
So
Where's
do you,
your proof?
Do you deny that Hezbollah has literally rockets that can be fired
I'm
from
not the one
inside civilian
making.
homes?
I'm not the one making these claims. I'm asking you, what's your proof?
I'm asking you.
You pretend that you have a very logical, well-documented, well-sourced opinion, okay? But then you're bullshitting because
Well,
you're
why
talking
did no
about.
one in- why did no one in
It's
Hezbollah-
usually 24 hours for a reservist, but
That's
for a
also,
Hezbollah
again,
fighter,
for non-state
it's an
actors, that's
hour.
also what the fucking Red Cross paper says as well. By the way, about non-state actors, yes, this is typically what they do. We can also
what
talk
I'm
about.
asking is, where is your proof about how long it takes for a Hezbollah fighter to get processed and armed and briefed?
Probably the fact that Hezbollah didn't even try. No one in Hezbollah has attempted to make the claim that these were reservists. That these are comparable to
So
reservists.
you didn't answer the question.
Yes, I did. That's if they
You
were
don't have an
if
answer.
they were reservists, they
and
would
what's
say.
funny is rhetorically, you're gonna try and just through your words, you're gonna try and pretend that you knew what you were talking about and that you had answers and you had me on the ropes. I didn't know what to say. I'm asking you basic questions to back up your thesis, your analysis.
Yeah,
this isn't analysis.
Yeah, but the problem with
This
you is
brain
that
dead.
you've admitted that nothing will change your mind. The Hezbollah said they were fighters.
What do you mean the problem?
They didn't
I
say
asked
they were
you,
reservists.
You can change my mind. Do you
Hezbollah
think by
said they were
answering
fighters. Do you
basic
deny that? Do you
questions,
deny
you
that?
might be able
Do
to
you
change
deny,
my mind?
Do you deny that Hezbollah people said that they were fighters? They were fighters, not reservists. Fighters.
When did I
you
deny
deny
that some of these people were fighters?
Do you deny that Hezbollah said that they were? Well, because you initially told Hutch that they targeted civilians.
No. Okay. Firstly,
So you lied.
Maybe
You didn't know. You had
later.
no fucking idea.
No. Firstly,
Yes,
you
you
have
did.
civilian
Do you deny
protections.
that? Oh, we're gonna
You
go back
have
and scrub the
civilian
clip from my little Twitter
protections
account.
when you're not in combat. Okay. So
No,
then later
you
when
fucking okay.
later when he wait later when he brought up the fighters, which I know about. I know about the fighters. I've heard your arguments about this. Okay.
So you just lied? You said, why do you say they
Later
targeted
when he
civilians
brought up
then?
the fighters, I clarified, and
Why did you say
you
they
heard
targeted
me
civilians
clarify.
then? Why do you say they targeted civilians? Hezbollah doesn't
Firstly,
agree
they
with
did. There were
this.
politicians. There were diplomats. Children were killed. Okay, and I said you
They
can't
didn't. Did
control
they
who has the
target the
pagers,
children?
but also non-combatants have civilian protections.
Were the children targeted?
What I said was, if you
Oh, so you
cannot
lied about that
control
as well.
who-
You know the children
who
weren't
comes in-
targeted, do
no,
you?
I said
Yes, you
if
do.
you
Yes,
cannot
you do.
control,
You know that they
if
targeted
you
their
cannot
parents
control,
who were
if you
Hezbollah
cannot control
operatives.
if you cannot control who comes in possession of these pagers, and clearly, kids were maimed and killed.
It's not about controlling. It's about having
Non-fighters
a reasonable assumption
were
of where they would be.
yeah. The problem with this is, for you can make reasonable, extensive, boundless.
That's the
So
purpose
how
of
am I
law.
supposed to have an
Yes.
argument about like that? You can say
Okay.
reasonable.
Well, use your
Okay,
brain
a lot
then.
of things are reasonable to
Yeah,
you.
okay, yeah, use
It
your
wasn't
brain.
reasonable to the ex-director of the CIA, but it was reasonable to you. Okay.
Ability to be able to place an explosive in technology that is very prevalent these days, and turn it into a war of terror, really, a war of terror. This is something new.
Is it terrorism?
I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism.
I think if Hezbollah orders a bunch of pagers for their soldiers, which was admitted to by the IRGC officials who spoke to Reuters, then I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to allow these pagers that are used for sensitive military operations to avoid detection from the IDF are going to necessarily allow these pagers to just get randomly dispersed among the civilian population. So I think it's a reasonable expectation that if you bug these pagers with explosions, and they were actually they went through some preliminary Hezbollah security checks. They tried it in airport security, and they passed it. So I think if you are giving these pagers to Hezbollah, and you know that Hezbollah are using it for military operations, then I think it's reasonable to assume that when you set these pagers off, the majority of them are going to be on the militants, and they're going to be hitting the militants. And that's exactly what happened.
Firstly, I told you, diplomats, politicians, children. Okay.
Was I wrong about the majority?
Okay, you think. What would you say? What would Hutch say? 1,400 out of 3,000?
It was 1,500, and those were only permanently injured ones. Those were only permanently injured.
But
you acknowledge that some people got temporarily injured as well.
Number one, non-combatants. Number two, you can't control. You're booby-trapping a device, and you can't control who's going to have possession of it. Number three, you're hitting diplomats. You're hitting politicians.
Do you think there's much of a distinction in Hezbollah between their political wing and their militant wing?
Much of a distinction? What qualifies as the right amount of distinction, and where's your analysis on the amount of distinction between the targets, the people who got hit, the politicians, the Iranian diplomat? Where's your analysis about the amount of distinction there was?
Well, I know the fact that when people were trying to sanction Hezbollah, Europe tried to say that we're only going to sanction the military wing, not the political one. Even though it's interesting because if you look at the way that the Shura Council oversees Hezbollah's different branches and even statements from people like Naim Qassem, it seems to be that Hezbollah themselves don't really see a difference between a distinct political wing and a military wing. They see this as like it's all the resistance. So it could be that these Iranian diplomats.
You're trying to go off a quote. You're trying to use a quote to avoid actual analysis. Actual analysis would be, you find the politicians and the diplomats who were targeted in the strike, okay, in the pager attack, and then you show me that they were militants.
How do I show you that?
Exactly.
Do you want me to give you IDF intel? Do you want the IDF to release how?
No, I'm saying you're the one who's so confident that everyone who got hit, you've made a guess.
I didn't say everyone.
They're all militants.
I said the majority, as per Hezbollah's words. No, we're talking about number one, again, number one, non-combatants. Number two, politicians and
diplomats.
No, they
Number
said
three, you
1,500.
can't control who gets in possession of the
They said-
pagers, that you're booby trapping, so you're killing and maiming children
They said
and
1,500
other civilians.
They said 1,500 fighters were permanently injured. That only counts permanently injured. That doesn't count people who were also temporarily injured.
Yeah, okay.
So at least
all-
half. Yeah.
How many times do I have to say this?
At least half were fighters.
Non-combatants.
Wait, do you think
What?
they described? Do you think they described the politicians as fighters?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, so you think when
I said
Hezbollah
there
calls them
were
fighters, to you
politicians
they're
who were hit.
non-combatants?
There were politicians. No, I said there were politicians and diplomats who were hit. They couldn't control who was going to have possession of the pagers. So your people are living civilian lives. They're in civilian areas. You could be driving your family home. You could be in a supermarket. Your kid could get a hold of your pager. You're not.
Yes,
in
we know
combat.
that was part of the reasonable expectation. They expected that not every pager would be on the person that it was targeting, which is collateral damage, okay? Because Hezbollah operates from within civilian areas, okay? That's always
They
part of
were
the
not
collateral.
targeting combatants. That's why there are laws that say you can't
But you
just
think
target
but you think a
non-combatants.
combatant is someone who's in a base or is firing their weapon, but that's not true.
Okay, but going between a base, there may be some in-between scenarios, but when you're
Yeah.
living
Oh, really?
civilian life,
Like a revolving
you are
door. Like
non-combatant.
that's why we have continuous combat function. Yes, that's why. Yes. Thank you. You're
Yeah,
in my position now.
yes,
well done.
but- No,
Congratulations.
I'm not in your position because I
Or-
said I don't think an off-duty Israeli soldier or reservist in a supermarket is considered a valid target. If you would like to make an actual argument about an actual person or group of people who were targeted and whether or not they were actually rapidly moving between a civilian setting and fighting, and you have actual evidence about it, and in this case we're talking about the pager attack, then you can
What,
show
you
me
want me
that
to-
evidence.
you
You
want
can
me to
go over
collect
it.
intel on
Instead, what you're
individual
doing,
fighters?
instead what you're doing, this is what you keep asking me. You don't think, you don't imagine.
Would it change your opinion at all if you had an answer to that? If we could ask like a reservist how long it takes, or we can just look that up together right now.